You were the brilliant child, the one who asked the deep questions no one else dared to form, the one who felt the weight of silence in a room before a word was spoken. You didn't just learn, you absorbed. You didn't just see, you saw through. But now you feel like a stranger in your own life. You perform, you please, you achieve, but something's missing. A hollowness, an ache. Not because you failed, but because you adapted too well. Somewhere along the way, the world convinced you to trade truth for approval. And little by little, you became what others wanted and forgot who you were. But that child, that brilliant, raw, sensitive soul, is still inside you. And in this video, we're not going to fix you, we're going to remember you. Because who you are isn't broken, just buried. And what's buried can be reclaimed. Let's begin the journey back, not to someone new, but to someone real. You were always more than just smart. You were awake. While others coasted through childhood, you observed, deeply. You noticed the tension between your parents long before they argued. You sensed when a teacher was smiling through exhaustion. You could feel the room, its mood, its secrets, as if it were speaking to you. That wasn't coincidence. That was brilliance. Emotional brilliance. The gift of perception. But no one taught you how to carry it. They saw your sharpness and praised your grades. They admired your creativity, your curiosity, your potential. But they didn't see the other side. The exhaustion, the confusion, the pressure to always be okay. You learned early that your light brought comfort to others. So you made yourself useful, polite, impressive. You shaped yourself into a role, the golden child, the gifted one, the one who always knew what to do. But here's the truth Jung whispered to those who'd listen. The brilliant child becomes a master of masks. And behind those masks, a silent sacrifice. You gave up pieces of yourself to keep the peace. Your wants, your anger, your softness, your questions that didn't fit the script. Slowly, those parts didn't just get quiet. They got buried. Not out of weakness, but out of love. Because love to you meant being good. And being good meant being less you. That's the hidden wound. You didn't perform for applause, you performed for safety. This is the beginning of disconnection. The quiet unraveling. You kept being what the world needed, but forgot to ask what you needed. And when you did pause long enough to feel, it hurt. Because the more you succeeded, the more hollow it felt. Not because success is bad, but because it wasn't yours. It was built to win approval, not express truth. Carl Jung warned us that when we live only through the expectations of others, we exile our authentic self into the shadow. You see the signs now. You say yes when you mean no. You smile when you want to cry. You listen to others but can't hear yourself. You've become everyone's anchor, but have no anchor of your own. It's not your fault. You were brilliant at surviving. You adapted so well that even you forgot there was more. But now the echo has begun. That quiet inner voice asking, "Where did I go?" You feel it late at night when the world goes quiet. In the pause after achievement when you realize you don't feel proud. You feel empty. In moments of stillness when the mask slips. And you glimpse something real and raw and scared beneath. That's not weakness. That's memory. That's the child, still inside, still brilliant, still waiting. And here's the truth no one told you. Adaptation is not identity. Survival is not self. You are not broken, you are layered. And the first step home is noticing. Not with shame, not with blame, but with compassion. Begin asking, what parts of me have I silenced to belong? Was it your anger, your wildness, your softness, your hunger for truth, your need to be held without fixing anything? Those aren't flaws. They are fragments of the whole you. This is the invitation, to sit with the self beneath the performance, to breathe without earning it, to ask gently, what if I'm allowed to just be? You don't have to burn your life down. You don't have to change overnight. The journey isn't radical, it's reverent. A return, not a rebellion. You were never too much. You were just too real for people who only knew how to love masks. But now you can choose differently, not by force, but by remembering. You were the brilliant child, and you still are. But now it's time to become the honest adult, the one who doesn't need to perform, the one who doesn't ask, Who do they want me to be? But whispers, who am I, when I stop trying? And that whisper? That's where the healing begins. There's a moment you probably don't remember, but it changed everything. Maybe it happened quietly, in the middle of an ordinary day. Or maybe it came after a betrayal, a disappointment, a silence too long to ignore. But somewhere along the line, you learned a truth that brilliant children should never have to carry. I can't rely on anyone. You didn't say it out loud. You didn't write it down, but you felt it. In your body, in your breath, in the way you stopped asking for help even when you were drowning. It began innocently, a missed check-in, an ignored emotion, a parent too overwhelmed to notice. But for someone as sensitive, as attuned as you were, that neglect hit like thunder. And so, you adapted. Again, brick by brick, you built the fortress. Independence. You became the strong one, the one who doesn't need, doesn't ask, doesn't fall apart. You smiled through your pain. You succeeded through your loneliness. You carried others, and in doing so, disappeared yourself. But this independence, the one the world praises, it wasn't strength, it was armor. Carl Jung once wrote, "Where love rules, there is no will to power." But hyper-independence is exactly that, will to power in disguise. It's fear pretending to be courage. It's control dressed up as stability. It's survival, not freedom. And the cost? Intimacy, connection, rest. No one offers to carry the one who seems to carry everything. So you became invisible in your pain. People saw your smile and assumed you were fine. They saw your achievements and assumed you were fulfilled. But they didn't see the ache, the weariness, the craving, not for admiration but for understanding. Because here's the secret no one tells the strong. You're not supposed to do it all alone. And true independence is only real when it's a choice, not a trauma response. So how do you begin again? Not by throwing away your strength, but by softening, by allowing space for your humanness, for your needs, for your fear. The moment you say, "I'm tired," and mean it. The moment you whisper, "I don't have it all together," and stop apologizing for it. That's when you begin to remember. Strength isn't measured by how much you can hold alone. It's measured by your willingness to be held. But here's where it gets harder and deeper. Because when you slow down and when the armor begins to crack, something unexpected appears. The self you've been avoiding. Not the version you perform. Not the one that gets applause. But the real one. The one who never felt like enough, no matter how much they did. The one who still wonders, if I stop achieving, do I still matter? This is the root of the exhaustion. The reason why even rest feels unsafe. Why joy feels foreign. Because somewhere inside you were taught that value had to be earned. That existing wasn't enough. That you weren't enough. And so, you've spent a lifetime trying to outrun that emptiness. Chasing productivity, status, perfection, approval. But approval doesn't fill the silence at night. It doesn't comfort the ache when no one's looking. It doesn't answer the question, who am I when I'm not trying to impress? Carl Jung believed that when we deny our inner world long enough, we become estranged from the self. We confuse image with identity. We decorate our prisons and call it success. But the soul knows better. The soul remembers. It remembers how you laughed before you filtered it. How you cried before you apologized for it. How you dreamed before you shrank. And now it's knocking, gently, persistently, not demanding that you change, just inviting you to feel again. You don't have to find yourself. You're not lost. You're just buried. Buried beneath years of expectations, of smiles that weren't real, of achievements that never healed. Buried beneath applause that left you emptier. The healing doesn't come from doing more. It comes from removing what's not you. Let yourself peel back the layers, not all at once, not in panic, but in presence. Sit with what's left, the uncertainty, the rawness, the questions, and then just maybe you'll feel something unexpected. Peace. Not the peace of performance, but the peace of being, of no longer proving, of no longer hiding. And that peace, it changes everything, because once you taste it, you'll never want to go back. You'll stop chasing clarity from outside and begin listening to the silence within. And that silence, It's not empty. It's your memory, your truth, your voice, waiting. So don't run from the stillness. Don't fill it too quickly. Sit with it. Because the next chapter, the one you were born to live, begins here. You've always played the part. Even now, people probably describe you as organized, strong, reliable. They tell you you're doing well. You nod, you smile, you say, "I'm fine." Because that's the script. That's the version of you the world has come to love. But deep down, you know something's wrong. There's a numbness, not depression exactly, but disconnection. You move through life like an actor who's forgotten what the movie is about. Every gesture feels rehearsed, every response preloaded. You smile at the right time. You get it right at the right time. But behind your eyes, something's missing. You. Carl Jung called it the persona, the social mask we wear to survive, to connect, to belong. It's not a lie. It's just not the whole truth. The problem isn't that you have a persona. The problem is when the mask becomes the face. And that's what happened to you. You've worn the mask so well for so long that it's become one with your identity. You've forgotten what your real laugh feels like. You've forgotten what your body feels like when you're not trying to impress. You've forgotten how to simply be. Not brilliant, not helpful, not charming, just human. And now, you're exhausted. Not because life is too much, but because being someone you're not is too much of a burden. So how do you come back? Not by force. Not by reinventing yourself, but by remembering. Start by noticing the little ways you still act out. The jokes you make to avoid silence. The nods of agreement when your soul screams no. The way you shrink your truth just to stay wanted. Then, gently, stop. Not all at once, but piece by piece, choice by choice. Say no when you mean it. Rest when you're tired. Speak up even when your voice shakes. Let yourself be seen. Don't let yourself be singled out. Because true connection only begins when the mask comes off. And here's the paradox. What you're most afraid to show is what people need to see most. Your tenderness, your questions, your contradictions, your rawness. That's not weakness, it's wholeness. The parts you thought made you unlovable are the parts that make you real. This is what Jung meant by individuation, the process of becoming your whole self by integrating the shadow, not hiding it. And the shadow isn't just your darkness. It's every part of you that you've been told to hide. Your intensity, your dreams, your anger, your longing, your truth. All of it. Still here. Still yours. Still waiting. You don't need to fix yourself. You need to return to yourself. And that journey, it doesn't start with a plan. It starts with a pause. It starts with saying, "I'm not okay," and that's okay. It starts with letting someone see you, the real you, even when you're messy, insecure, imperfect. Because the truth is, you've already shown up enough. You've already accomplished enough. You don't need another trophy. You need the truth. You don't need applause. You need alignment. And here's what alignment feels like. Stillness. Relief. A strange but familiar peace. Like you're finally breathing your own air again. But don't expect everyone to understand. Some people only knew the performance. Some only loved the mask. And when you start showing your true colors, they may pull away. Let them. Don't shrink to keep yourself loved. Don't dim the lights just to keep the room comfortable. Your light isn't the problem. Their eyes are just adjusting. Let them squint. Let them walk away. Because those who stay, those who find their true selves and choose them anyway, that's where the healing happens. That's where home begins. And maybe, for the first time in years, you'll feel this. Not success, not admiration, but belonging. Not for what you do, not for what you achieve, but for who you are. Right here, right now, no performance, no polish, just presence. And if you're reading this, feeling that ache in your chest, that soft memory, then your journey has already begun. So stop, breathe, and let it in. Let yourself feel again. Let your real voice rise. Let your truth take up space. You're not too much, you never were. You were just surrounded by people who didn't know how to hold their light. But you do. And now, if this message touched you, if it stirred something long buried, don't let it go unnoticed. Comment below. What part of your true self are you ready to reclaim? Like the video, not for vanity, but so that others can find the same mirror that you found here. And subscribe, because this journey is just beginning, and you don't have to walk alone anymore. There's something they never tell the brilliant child, that healing will feel like grief. Because when you finally start removing the mask, when you stop performing and begin returning to yourself, something unexpected happens. You mourn. You mourn the years you spent pretending, the love you accepted just to feel safe, the dreams you put on hold, the moments you swallowed your truth to be palatable, and maybe, worst of all, you mourn the version of yourself you never got to fully be. But that grief is sacred. It's not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign you're finally doing something real. Because healing isn't just about becoming whole. It's about making peace with all the versions of you who had to survive without knowing how. The perfectionist, the people pleaser, the overachiever, the quiet one, the one who laughed to hide the ache, the one who stayed strong because there was no other option. None of them were mistakes. They were adaptations. They were brilliant responses to a world that didn't know how to hold your depth. But now, something inside you is ready for more than survival. It's ready for return. This is the turning point, the place where you no longer define yourself by what you've endured, but by what you choose to become, where you stop asking, "What do they want from me?" and start asking, "What do I want to give to the world?" Where your voice no longer echoes the needs of others, but carries the weight of your truth. This is where your essence, not your performance, begins to lead. And here's what you may not expect. The more authentic you become, the simpler life feels. Not easier, but simpler. Decisions get clearer. Relationships either deepen or dissolve. Your schedule may shrink, but your peace expands. Why? Because you're no longer living in conflict with yourself. The version of you that once had to hide, edit, or explain, they're no longer in charge. You are. And in that sovereignty, in that deep inner alignment, you start to feel something that was once foreign. Safety inside your own presence. No need to prove, no need to rush, no need to play a role. Just you, awake, breathing, present. And from that presence comes power. Not loud, not boastful, but undeniable. The kind of power that doesn't need validation. The kind of power that knows its worth in silence. Because when you live from your truth, you stop chasing what was never yours. You stop performing for rooms that never saw you. You stop trying to earn what should have been given freely. Love, belonging, rest. And here's the beautiful part. Your transformation doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't need to be loud. It can be a quiet rebellion. You get up, look in the mirror, and instead of asking, "How do I fix myself today?" you ask, "How do I honor myself today?" You dress for your spirit, not for approval. You create not to impress, but to express. You speak not to convince, but to connect. That's the return. Not to who you were told to be, but to who you've always been underneath. And yes, people may be confused. Some will miss the version of you they could control or depend on. The agreeable one. The perfect one. The one who never asked for anything. Let them go. Let them miss you. Because you're no longer available for the role of the reliable illusion. You're here for something deeper. For connection that honors your truth. For work that reflects your soul. For a life that doesn't just look good, but feels like yours. That's not selfish. That's sacred. You're not abandoning others. You're reclaiming the self you abandoned for them. And when you start living this way, something else happens. You begin to attract people who don't need the performance. They crave the presence. People who meet you in your softness, not just your strength. People who don't just hear your voice, but listen for your truth. Because wholeness is magnetic. And once you stop dimming, the world around you shifts. Not instantly, not without resistance, but inevitably. Because light expands, and you, once buried beneath roles, masks, and expectations, are now expanding. So if it feels like your world is shifting, if things are falling away, if relationships are being redefined, don't panic. This is what rebirth feels like. This is what it means to step into your true life, not the one that was planned for you, but the one that was waiting for you. And all it took was one decision: to stop pretending, to stop performing, To stop betraying your own soul for applause that never lasted anyway. Now you're not just alive, you're here. And the more you live from this space, the more you'll see. You were never broken, just buried. You were never weak, just silenced. You were never lost, just waiting. And now you're ready. You were the brilliant child and whole, curious, sensitive. You carried wisdom before you had words and love before you had safety. But to survive, you learned to perform. You became what the world rewarded and lost touch with what made you alive. But that spark never left. It simply waited behind every yes you meant to say no, behind every silence that should have been a scream. And now it's time. Time to return, not to some broken past, but to the truth that never stopped calling your name. You don't need to become someone new. You only need to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. The masks served you once, but now it's your presence that will set you free. Don't run from the stillness. That's where your soul waits. That's where your life begins. Not a life of performance, but one of presence, truth, and quiet freedom. If this message felt like something you've always needed to hear, like a memory waking up, then don't stop here. Click the video on your screen and uncover the truths that most people only face when it's already too late. This is your last chance to remember, to feel, to live.